All right, so this is interesting. Daredevil Born Again drew 7.5 million viewers in its first 5 days on Disney Plus. This could be on par with Agatha All Along, which drew in 9.3 million in its first 7 days. So this is interesting. And Darren, we talked very briefly about this before we went live. I want to point out that prior to Agatha, Disney Plus didn't release any numbers for first 7 day watch numbers for any of their shows. I couldn't find them anywhere, and I looked everywhere. So I don't think they released them. But this is interesting for a couple reasons. First of all, I think it's great. I mean, people are going to watch Daredevil. I don't think this show is going to flop. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think it's going to drop off massively. We'll have to see, but I don't think so. If anything, I think it might go up in viewership. But this brings into question all of the people out there who made videos calling Agatha a flop because of this. What are you saying about Daredevil? Daredevil's arguably many times over more popular than Agatha is in terms of like pop culture. No shade to Agatha because I love Agatha. I love Catherine. But definitely more popular in that way. Is this showing that Marvel, and again, Darren, we talked about this briefly, that Marvel tapped into a viewer base that loved Agatha, loved this character, and this was the right direction, and that Daredevil is taking a step back in terms of what they've been doing? Do you think that's even a conversation to be had?
I think it's so funny because, like, when the show was announced, all you were hearing, who asked for this? Who wants this? Nobody wants this. And then you have their, like, premieres gaining more than, let's be honest, one of the most popular Marvel characters of all time, the biggest, like, bring back blank campaign of all time when it comes to, like, a canceled TV show. It's crazy. And, yeah, I think you're right. Like, Agatha just tapped into a side of the culture base that does not watch Marvel shows. They don't keep up with the MCU, but they love Catherine Hahn as Agatha. And to be fair, I think Daredevil's doing the same thing, right? I think they are bringing in people who don't typically watch the MCU, but maybe they loved that Daredevil show they watched almost 10 years ago, right? So I think it's doing the same thing, and I do think these kind of shows will have more of a longevity week to week. Like, I'd be curious to see how it would compare to, like, a WandaVision or a Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I think this is a show people are going to keep coming back for week after week after week, similar to Agatha. And how that, like, will continue through, because season 2 comes out next year, and a Punisher special, and hopefully gets a season 3 and 4. Like, it seems like this is being made for a multiple season run.
And look, I'm not suggesting that Marvel is making a mistake by bringing Daredevil back. I actually think it's a good thing, and I think this entire universe coming back into Disney Plus is a good thing. But my point is, in all of this, that maybe people shouldn't have discredited Agatha so harshly. Because it's clear here, like you said, Darren, there is a fan base that watched Agatha that may not be tuning in for other Marvel stuff. And I think it is if we're going to talk about, I think years down the road, after all this is said and done, when we're talking about Marvel TV shows, I think the idea that Agatha was something that people didn't want, if you put it side by side so closely to the release of Daredevil with these kinds of numbers, it tells me that is not it's not a real narrative. It's not even a conversation. People wanted Agatha. They wanted this character to continue. They loved WandaVision. It was the natural progression of WandaVision to go into an Agatha show, which is going to lead into something with Wiccan, possibly the Young Avengers, possibly Champions. It's just the natural progression of those things. And it seems like this proves to me that Agatha is a success in regards to viewership, all things considered. But look, I think Daredevil's going to do fine. I don't have a concern for Daredevil in that way.
Those are still great views. Yeah, like, that's nothing to worry about. And I do think it does reaching this, I think also now opens the door of, like, okay, what other old Marvel show can we bring back? Because, like, the 2 Disney Plus Marvel shows that they brought back, X-Men and Daredevil, both seem to be very successful. So now I guarantee you they're already in those writers' rooms being like, okay, what's next? Is Jessica Jones
we've got a bunch of Netflix shows that we can do. We have shows on Hulu that we could bring back. You know what I mean? There's things they could do. What about Ghost Rider? What about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Like, there's all these possibilities for things to come back now. And I think this shows that is a possibility.